Hi, welcome to another Canto Roboflow training movie. In this training movie, I will show you how you can create a pin collection. In this example, I will use sites, but you can use it, of course, also in portals or in the Cumulus web client. Basically, it boils down to a workflow where you find a bunch of records and use those records for a collection. Finding a bunch of records, the easiest way to do that is, for instance, a hot collection workflow, which launches a query and processes the records from that query. It could also be a hot folder in which you drop files and they are cataloged and then you have the record, or it could be you have XML files or other tab limited files that are dropped into a hot folder, and then based on that it finds records and processes them and creates a collection. But in this example, we're going to keep it very simple. A hot collection workflow launches a query, and in my example, I'm going to have a query that says item creation date bigger than today minus 100 days, which means give me every record which was created in the last 100 days. I'm using the sample catalog, and you always have with a query the possibility to test it. So if I select here my sample catalog, I can say, please tell me, and I can see that I have two recently created records in this catalog. So the query is fine. I configured that I want to be notified by email. We'll come back to the email section after I explained how the action script works. The most important instruction in this workflow is save pin collection. So what this does, it creates a pin collection and you can decide what the name is. The naming of collections is that they should be unique. So the safest way is to specify here GUID if it's just a collection for which the name is not important, but where you think it's important that it is acting as a real pin collection, then you just specify GUID here, and GUID then means that it will create behind the scenes a unique number, as you will see later in the URL. You specify here in this save pin collection that you're using the current catalog, the hot catalog, and you can set permissions, which permissions they are allowed to have in the in that pin collection. Then you specify the records. Now the records is something special. This needs to be a text string, and the syntax of the text string is catalog ID underscore record ID, comma, catalog ID underscore record ID. So it could be 5 underscore 10, comma, 5 underscore 12, which means catalog with ID 5 and record 10 and 12 with ID 10 and 12. So I'm going to construct that string. And then finally, I save the generated name for the collection so that we can reuse it. It is prefixed with the wording global because I'm going to use it outside the process of this action script, and anything that you want to be able to use in outside this one execution of the action script, you should prefix it by hash global hash. Same actually for records. We will have a variable that we will create in which we will store the list of records. And since this variable called records needs to exist outside the action script, because it needs to be used from one action script to another, and it needs to be used for the mail, so outside the action script altogether, we prefix it with global so it persists in memory across the loop of the workflow. How do we accomplish that? Well, the first instruction here is picking up from the hot record. I'm storing record field value as text. I'm storing the ID and I call it rec ID. And I do the same for the catalog ID. I say cat ID. Catalog ID is not a real field in your catalog. It's something that Roboflow knows and can translate if you specify it like this. And the other fields, of course, catalog fields, record fields you can use as well. But this is a Roboflow field that way knows it has to get the catalog ID. Then what I'm doing is I'm testing if I'm processing the last item of the loop. If I am processing the last item of the loop, I am going to create that zip pin collection. But before I do that, I'm concatenating whatever I stored in a variable called records. I'm concatenating that with the new catalog ID with an underscore and then at the end a comma. Here there's no comma because this is the last item of the loop, so there's nothing following anymore. We do exactly the same thing if it's not the last item of the loop, but then I add a comma here at the end so that each of the value pairs are separated by commas. So very, very simple workflow. All we do is create a little string in which the catalog ID and record ID is specified, and then we're passing that information to the pin collection instruction. Then I'm mailing this. Now, if we look at the mail, as explained in other training movies, it consists of 3 parts. This, what happens is each record gets processed, and at the end of the process of a record, it executes this part. It stores in memory this part of the text. So for each record, it will pick up the record name, and again and again and again, it will create just a long string that it keeps in memory. Then when all records are processed, it is executing these 2 parts. It's reading these 2 parameter files and putting them into memory to construct the text for the mail. This will be the subject, and what is happening here below, which is normally part of all the mail bodies, is this tag, and this tag actually points to this. So whatever has been concatenated into all the record names that it has processed, for instance, will be put here. If you don't want that, just remove that tag and you will not have that information in your mail. What I also used in my mail here is I hard-coded the URL I want him to go to, and then I add a variable part. I'm picking up a variable, something that has a tag in memory, and that has this tag. Remember that the result of our save pin collection instruction, we gave it this tag. We prefix it with global to tell the workflow where to look, and that it knows that it's in the global memory area. And so that's how it will construct. This does not use, the mailing in Roboflow does not use the Cumulus mailing templates for many reasons. One of them is that Roboflow is able to notify, send email, a bundled email about, let's say, 20 records, and here's a report or an overview mail of them, while in the Cumulus templates it is usually bound to one record. So if you use, for instance, the scheduler to send you email notifications about a record, well, you will receive, if there's 20 records to notify, you will get 20 mails. With Roboflow, the construction of this part, which will be dynamic in your mail for each record, and then you have one mail body. So that way you can get one notification for 20 records and not 20 mail notifications. So that is one of the many reasons why Roboflow is not using the mail templates from Cumulus. Here, so you can define your mail perfectly in here. Another advantage of doing it here is that you could even have user dependent mail, saying for this user I use this type of mail, or for that user I do use different kind of mail. All possible. And so you can specify any number of email addresses to notify separated by comma or by semicolon. And now let's have a look at the workflow. So if the workflow runs, imagine that you want an email sent out every Sunday or Monday morning at 1 a.m. To tell them, okay, in the past 7 days, these are the new records that were added. And so that could be an example. So if we execute this workflow, it is going to send out an email, and you see already my mail is saying me that I have an email. So if I open it, you can see that I received the mail. As I said, the body of the mail can be as nice or ugly as you want. You can even have thumbnails if you want in the mail to show which products you're talking about. You can have other information, so it can be as simple or advanced as you like. You see that this is not clickable because we didn't make it clickable, so it's a copy paste at this point. But if you want to make it clickable, it's pure HTML. You can very easily go in here, say edit, and make it clickable. So then you would do something like this. You would say href equals like that, and like that, and then you would say click here to open your collection, like that, and then we do slash this and that. So if I want to, if I run this workflow again, start, it will send out the same. And if we open it, we can see that we now have click here to open. And if I click on it, it just opens the collection with the 2 records that I have. And as I said, this part, of course, can be modified to reflect Cumulus Web Client or the portals if you have the most recent 10.2 version. So this was another simple Roboflow training movie. Very easy functionality to notify people about a bunch of files and give them access to it. Thank you for joining this training movie, and see you in the next one.